In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, we are excited because it is NBA Combine Week, one of the most important weeks, if not probably the second most important week for us NBA draft junkies. And in this episode, we're going to talk about, of course, the lottery. We're going to talk about the G League Elite Camp and what we are looking forward to seeing at the 2025 NBA Combine. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my brother, James Barlowe. And we're excited because we are going to be in Chicago. We are recording this at 10:25 p.m. Central on Sunday night, and we have a 5 a.m. flight, which means we got to be at the airport at least 4, which means we got to leave at like 3. So pulling an all-nighter here. But before we get too deep into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell, so you can be notified every time we drop an episode. We're coming at you at least 5 days a week. And like I just mentioned, James and I, we will be live at the NBA Combine. You're going to see live reactions. I'll actually be at the lottery. I got a suit that I'm trying to decide if I'm going to pack. Do I go like fresh, like casket fresh, or do I go casual with the blazer? I don't know. I still have not decided. I got only a few hours before I go. But I'm looking forward to this week, man. This is a big week. This will be my third NBA Combine. James, this will be your first NBA Combine.
Yes.
And let's just start off this episode with the big day that is coming up. Well, right now it's tomorrow, but by the time most people listen to this, it will be later on today. The lottery. You can make a case and say this is the Cooper Flagg's sweepstakes. I know there's a lot of fan bases that are hoping and praying and wishing that they win the lottery. So what are your thoughts on this overall lottery, and like what are some of the things that you're looking forward to at the Combine?
Well, in this particular draft, I guess you could say, obviously you want number one. You'll take number 2 because we think it's going to be Dylan Harper. And then number 3 is where I think it'll be Ace Bailey, but it could get interesting. And this is an interesting time because, if it's somebody we don't expect, and then you got to think like, what happens if, OKC doesn't pull out this series? It's just a lot going on. And you think Utah would win the lottery, but we kind of need to start in the East. So I don't know.
Well, Utah, Washington, and Charlotte have the best odds. The odds are flat. They have the best odds at landing Cooper Flagg. If you had to choose between those three teams, which do you think would be the best fit for Cooper?
He would fit in fine anywhere. I want to see him out east, so I'm going to say Washington, even though him in Utah wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. But we need some more star power out east. And, yeah, let's get him in Washington. I think they are doing the rebuild the right way. I don't want to call it a tank, but they're rebuilding the right way. And he would obviously help them out tremendously. We're still young, probably still not good enough, but also you can, find yourself in a good spot in 2026 because there's some star power there for sure. So I'm rooting for Washington. Don't come for me, Nets fans who I follow on Twitter. So
it seems like my following on Twitter is a lot of Jazz fans.
Mine is too.
And they've been taking it serious. I mean, they've had a countdown. 2 more sleeps until we find out who we get Cooper Flagg. I've seen all of those posts. Shout out Jazz fans. It'll be interesting. All right. The projected number 2 pick is Dylan Harper. Do you see any situation where he does not go number 2? You think there's any team that if they get the second pick, like Charlotte, for example, even though I think him and LaMelo Ball could play together, but do you think there is a scenario where he could end up not being the number 2 pick?
There's always a scenario he could not be the number 2 pick. I don't think it's a likely pick. Even if I'm Charlotte, I'm still taking him because they do need somebody who can get to the rim. We know Dylan Harper can get to the rim, and that's a really big backcourt with him and LaMelo. But I can't see anyone. I don't know, man. Some people may fall in love and say, "Oh, okay, Milo Ouch, he shot the ball well. He has more offensive potential than besides being a rim runner." Maybe somebody sees Ace Bailey and is like, you know what, the foundation is just too good to pass upon. But I ultimately think it's going to be Harper, and maybe the pick gets traded. I have no idea, man. I just know whoever's drafting number 1 is staying at number 1. Whoever's
Yeah,
drafting at number 2, it could get dicey as far as fit, but at the same time, I think Harper's is a very good prospect in himself.
yeah. I think those two are locks. I can't see a scenario where a team would trade the number 2 pick. But I will say this much. I think whoever wins the lottery, and we'll know at this time tomorrow, you might as well just have the Cooper Flag jersey. You might as well put them on sale.
Yeah,
Get your realtor, your team appointed realtor or whoever to have them start looking for properties because, I mean, just it's a no brainer. We know
yeah.
Cooper Flag is going to be the number 1 pick. All right, I'm going to have fun real quick before we get into the second segment. I'm on Tankathon.com, one of my favorite sites when it comes to NBA draft, mock drafts, and big boards. And it's always good to me because what I love about Tankathon is they have the player's age, like their drafted age. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm about to hit Sim Lottery and see who gets the number 1 pick. All right. So, all right. Here's a question for you, and it's similar to what we just talked about with Dylan Harper. In this simulated lottery on Tankathon.com, I just did it on my phone. The Charlotte Hornets got the number 1 pick. The Portland Trailblazers got the 2nd pick, and the Brooklyn Nets got the 3rd pick. And Utah fell down to 4. So, based off of that order, Charlotte, Portland, Brooklyn, which direction would you go in?
Charlotte, I'm obviously taking Flag. Portland, I'm still taking Dylan Harper, trading Simons. Who was 3rd? Brooklyn.
Nets.
If I'm the Nets, I'm taking Fears.
For the Nets, you're taking Fears.
Yes.
And then they had the Jazz 4th, and the Wizards.
If I'm the Jazz, I'm taking Ace Bailey. And again, I feel like it's better situations, in my opinion, for those 2 guys to go in those situations, in those spots, with Ace going to Utah instead of Brooklyn. Will he be successful in Brooklyn? He could be successful in Brooklyn, but I guess you could sit here and say, you know what, it gives him an opportunity to, work on his flaws, but I think Utah would be a better fit for him. And also, I think Fears in Brooklyn, he gets the ball. It's a totally rebuilding situation. And like I said, you're still in position to land Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansa, Cameron Boozer. Like, I mean, you can still have that all happen if you take Ace at 3, to be honest with you. But I like that scenario for both those guys.
All right, I'm going to hit it again, see if we can get another direction here. Whoa. All right, this one. I hit it again. The Sixers get the number 1 pick. The Raptors get the 2nd pick, and Brooklyn is 3rd again. What do you think about Cooper Flagg in Philadelphia? Again, this is just a simulation on Tankathon.com, and the Sixers moved up 4 spots. What would be your reaction if this happens? You said you wanted Cooper in the East.
I don't want him in Philly, though. Like, I don't want to say something wrong. I just think Philly is there because of injury, and they got Tyrese. I really don't think they should have paid Paul George that kind of money. I like Embiid, but availability is not his strongest suit. But like, if you're like Tyrese, if you're a New Balance, you like, man, we got both our guys, our young guys in Philly. That's great. Who was number 2? Toronto.
I like to.
I'm still taking Dylan Harper for sure.
And then Brooklyn was at number 3. So I did 2 sims. The Nets ended up with the 3rd pick both times. But the Cooper Flagg to Philly situation would be very interesting simply because I think people would put Philly as a team, as a top 4 team in the East next year, if healthy. They could say, last year was an outlier year with all the injuries. I mean, other than Embiid. But I think that would definitely create a major buzz in the Eastern Conference next year.
And that's a good situation for him because, like, whatever you think of Paul George, again, Paul George is extremely talented. He's got kids, figurative kids all over AAU basketball. His fingerprints are all over basketball as far as being a 6'9", 6'10" guy that can handle. Like, if Cooper Flagg just worked with him as far as just figuring out the ball hand, like, that'd be great for him. You know what I'm saying? And then you got him and Tyrese in like 3 years. Like, wow, good luck.
McCain.
And McCain too. Good luck stopping them.
All right, up next, we are going to talk about the G League Elite Camp. There were 5 players that were selected to get bumped up to the NBA Combine. One of James's favorite prospects in the 2025 NBA Draft, who has a big decision to make, was one of the players that got bumped up. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. And DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It is called If They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. All you have to do is place an order of $20 or more and use the code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. A crispy, delicious, and totally free combo from Wingstop. Offers valid from noon until midnight the very next day. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals the remainder of the playoffs. Wingstop50 is the code. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right, second segment. So the G League Elite Camp, which is a camp that precedes the NBA Combine. It is a camp where, it's pretty simple. It's just the players that were not among the top 75 prospects that the NBA teams voted in to the NBA Combine are invited to the G League Elite Camp. And it is a camp that if you play well, you can get moved up to the NBA Combine. It's not always the same amount of players, but this year they had 5 players that were picked to play in the NBA Combine. I know I was at the Combine a couple of years ago, and one of the players I spoke with that got the bump, he said he had packed for a full week. He was prepared. He didn't bring the, like 3 or 4 days worth of clothes. He knew that he was staying for a full week, and he ended up staying for a full week. And he's had a couple of teams in the NBA. All right, here are the 5 players from the G League Elite Camp that got the call up to the NBA Combine. You got Mackenzie Mbako from Indiana, Tamar Bates from Missouri, Ryan Nimhart from Gonzaga, Lachlan Olbrich from Australia, and Yannick Conan Niederhauser from Penn State. I know you are a big Yannick Conan Niederhauser fan. I did an article on Friday, and I had a list of like 10 players that I thought that I thought had a good chance of getting invited to the NBA Combine. Two of the guys, so 20% is not good, but 2 of the 5 guys that I wrote about did get the bump up. One was Niederhauser and one was Ryan Nimhart. Tell me your thoughts on Niederhauser for those that missed the episode, and why you are not surprised that he was one of the names that stood out in this setting.
All right, 2 things. The first time I talked about him, I told you he was an athlete, very good athlete. And, the combine measurements at the G League portion, he measured out very close to Willie Cauley-Stein. He was 6'11" and 3/4, 6'11" and a quarter barefoot. He had a 7'3" wingspan. He had like the highest standing vertical, all of that good stuff. But not only is he an athlete, he can play basketball. And he had a 17-point performance. I believe he had a 14-point performance today. I'm not surprised. And in the previous episode, we talked about, when the invites went out, and then I said he would get a G League invite, and he would eventually get the other invite because all he needed was a point guard, and he got paired with like who I said, man, I don't know what's going on. I said if he got paired with Chucky Hepburn, he was going to look good. So here you are, Yannick Koenig-Niederheiser. It's lazy to make the complexion comparison to Jackson Hayes. I think he has more skill than Jackson Hayes. And he has another opportunity to show us. Again, I think there's some ability in the short roll. I think there's some ability to, obviously be a vertical lob threat. So I'm not surprised at all because I told you about him twice that he could legit play. Now, it's going to come down to the money because word on the street is he got $1.5 million to $2 million to go back to Penn State. So do you take that money or do you say, you know what, I'm a 38th pick. Here's a 2-year, $6 million deal, $7 million deal, $5 million, whatever it may be. So, but I'm not surprised. And also Mackenzie Mbako, he's real.
He got off to a hot start this year.
Yeah, he could be like a Taurean Prince type. I know Taurean Prince handled the ball a lot his first couple of years coming out of Baylor. Then he turned into a corner boy. But Mbako can be that. He's got good size. I wish he rebounded a little bit more. But he like you said, at the beginning of the year, he shot the ball extremely well. Then he cooled down. But again, he's 6'8". He can hit threes. If you do that and play defense, you can get paid. So he's somebody who I think, he always go back to school and make money. But I think eventually he does get an NBA shot. It's just a matter of when.
Yep. So here's something that I found interesting. So I wrote this on NBABigBoard.com. And I said, players invited to the G League Elite Camp should be hoping they land on the same team as Gonzaga's Ryan Nembhard. And Nembhard led the nation in assists at 9.8 points per game. And 2 of the 5 guys that were invited were his teammates and Mbako and Lachlan Olbrich. And so I do think that in this particular setting, whether it's the G League Elite Camp or the NBA Combine, your success could really heavily depend on your point guard, especially if you have a pass-first point guard who is looking to set the table. And that's usually not always the case in the combine setting. When guys are playing limited minutes, you usually have guys that are looking for theirs, that are trying to get buckets. And we've seen some guys have success in that role. We've seen guys that actually played at the combine and seen their stock rise. But it's like I didn't get a lot of the names right when I wrote my article, but I did get Niederhauser right, and the fact that playing with Ryan Nembhard could really help you out as far as getting to the NBA Combine.
Put you on the spot, Raf. All right, so you're Yannick Niederhauser. Yep. You're Mackenzie Mbako. All right, and you don't have Ryan Nembhard. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he's not there as your point guard. Who do you want to play with if you're one of those 2 guys?
I'm knocking on Yegor Dimon's door every day in the hotel.
Play.
I don't know, but I'm knocking on his door, asking him, is he playing? Is he playing? And I'm trying to, it's almost like a receiver trying to befriend the quarterback because he controls if you get touches or not. But I do think, especially like a lob threat like Niederhauser, you need that point guard that can, create shots for you, because he's not a guy that's going to create his own offense. His offense is going to be dependent on who's getting him the ball and his effort and energy. I'm looking forward to the combine, man. I can't wait. Have you ever checked your bank account and you wondered where in the world did all the money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's very easy to lose track. And that is where Monarch Money comes in. It is your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and spending in one place. So you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. And managing money with your partner It's easier than ever because with Monarch Money, you can track your shared and personal accounts, you can set goals, and you can stay on the same page without the stress. So take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code Locked On NBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NBA for half off your first year. Everyone in my house always has something going on, and I call this busy season. And I don't have a lot of time to go grocery shopping or to cook healthy meals at home. And that is why I use Hungry Root. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of your grocery shopping, your meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and your health goals. And with Hungry Root, with their high quality, nutritious food, you can stick to your gut friendly, high protein diet without spending hours planning. Their meals come together in 15 minutes or less, giving you more time for workouts, family, hobbies, or to watch the NBA playoffs. So take advantage of this exclusive deal. You can get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/locked on NBA and use the code Locked On NBA. That is hungryroot.com/Locked On NBA. Use the code Locked On NBA, LOCKEDON NBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. All right, last segment. So the 2025 NBA Combine is in Chicago, like always. Like I mentioned, my third Combine, James is first. And there's still like an excitement for me for the Combine, just because to me, from I'm a terrible networker. I tell people all the time, I am like a terrible networker, but somehow I'm connected. But it's because I'm just always in the gym. I'm always in like the place to be. And the thing about the Combine is there's no fans there. It is just parents, players, agents, in the front office. So there's not a better setting to have genuine conversations and build relationships with NBA front office executives, players, and their parents. So I'm definitely looking forward to being in Chicago. So first, let's talk about the 5-on-5 play. All the players are now, according to the collective bargaining agreement, supposed to participate in drills. Supposed to. I'm curious to see how many guys, top 10 guys, are going to have pulled calves, sprained thumbs, sore knees. So, with that being said, if you had to make a prediction, how many guys in your lottery do you think are going to participate in any of the drills, whether it's the shooting drills, the athletic testing? How many guys do you think are going to participate?
All right. Cooper Flagg probably gonna have sweats on the whole time. There's no reason for him to do anything. I don't think Dylan Harper. I don't think Ace needs to do anything. I think Fear should shoot. Uh, yeah. I think Malawal should shoot.
He has absolutely nothing to lose. If he
Malawal
goes
or Fears.
Malu if he goes 0 for 10 from
All right, who
three,
cares?
who cares? But
Yeah.
if he goes 6 or 7 for 10, even though it may not mean anything because Christian Coloco shot lights out a couple of years ago, and not saying it just shows. I don't even know how many threes Christian Coloco has made in his NBA career. I know he's had some injuries and some off the court illness related stuff that has impacted his career. But I remember like seeing him shoot. I mean, I think he was ranked in like the top 5 or 10 of all the players at the combine. It was something that we hadn't seen at Arizona. But Molly Walsh, I agree. He has absolutely nothing to
Yeah,
lose if he
I'm
goes out
I'm
and
shooting with
shoots.
the jacket on like Larry Bird if I'm Malawal. Like I'm trying to I'm trying to trick somebody, man, thinking I'm a real stretch five. I do buy he does have the ability eventually. It's just a matter of if that's what you want him to do, if that's what's best for the team. But if I'm him, I'm the first one shooting. I know. So like Castle shot last year, so that's why I think Fears could shoot. I can see him not participating because I think he's solidified himself as a top 5 pick. But if you know I don't necessarily think it would hurt him, but if he goes out there and shoots the ball well, think like, oh, he's a better shooter than what we thought. I mean, obviously it's just a drill setting, but his mechanics look good. And, just watching the videos that have been circulating online, as far as him working out, like you can tell he's been working on his jump shot. Obviously, that's what everybody's supposed to do. But maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't think he has anything to gain or lose. He might just be somebody that's in sweats too. Cedric Coward. See, it'll be interesting to see how active he is. I told you I think I would play if I were him, but if the feedback is what it is, he may not need to do anything. But the measurements may sell you along because you're gonna see have +6 on the wingspan or something like that.
7'1", 7'2". So we'll see.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Colin Murray Boyles, are you shooting if you're him?
Yeah, he has. I think he's in the same situation as Mollywogs.
It's a plus.
Teams know that. I think he made like 14 jump shots his entire sophomore year. So teams know that that's the big concern. So if he goes and stinks it up, teams know he can't shoot. They know that They know that they're not drafting him for his shooting.
Yeah.
Now, if he goes and he makes, a fair amount of shots, it could help him. But I will say this much about the combine, and I think this is where like my training background comes into why I'm not a big believer in the combine shooting drills, because most NBA level players can make open shots. But there's a difference between shooting to make shots and shooting the shots you're going to get in the game. And at the combine, yes, you're timed, but you see centers have time and rhythm to get shots up. Obviously it's not contested, but you usually see some guys that you would never label as shooters have some pretty decent performances because probably since the end of the season, they've done nothing but work on these drills.
Yeah, it's like football. You can cheat the drill, or you like, all right, we gotta get that 40 time down because if you test here, then you look fast, even though you may not be that fast with pads. And just like with the drill, with the combine shooting, like the dude might shoot 21 to 25, but those aren't game shots.
Exactly. And that's my point, because I've done some NFL combine stuff, and that's all they do is just train for the 40. I shouldn't say that's all they do, but a significant amount of time is spent training on the 40, because a good 40 time could add a couple M's to your bank account if you drafted high. And so I do think that you're going to see some guys that aren't considered good shooters have some pretty good shooting numbers in the 5-star drills and in the shooting drills, because they're going to have plenty of time in rhythm. I've talked to some agents. They're looking for gym space in Chicago to make sure their guys are still keeping the rhythm, because you don't want a situation where a guy flew in on Friday or flew in Saturday and then he doesn't shoot again until Tuesday. And I've known some really, really good shooters, NBA level shooters, that they can't take a day off. If they take a day or two off, they completely lose their rhythm. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing, which guy that isn't considered a shooter has an outlier shooting performance. Here's one for you. And I have two. Actually, I have three. Who are the players you are looking forward to seeing the most? Whether it's 5-on-5 or just drills or something that you feel like they need this platform of the combine to address. When we talked about Murray Boyles maybe needing this platform to show teams he can shoot, I said I don't know if it matters, but is there anybody that you are looking forward to seeing?
So there's a list of guys I wish that they would play, and I doubt that they play. So I wish Derek Queen plays. I doubt that he plays. But, and this is where it gets to like the second. I want to see what like Carter Bryant, for example. Like he's still a mystery in the sense that he played so few minutes, and a lot of his projection is a 100% projection, because he didn't start, and like he had a cap on his minutes, and then it was like, all right, when he played against, and I have to run the tape, I mean no disrespect, but did he show you anything in that matchup against Cooper Flagg to show you like a lockdown defender? You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see him hoop too on top of that, because I have him in the middle of the first round, if he goes out there and shows you something more, then maybe that could he could be like a draft riser. I want to see. I think Asa Newell is going to go out there and he's going to shoot threes, right? So that could help him out as far as because he's kind of stuck between positions, and he would need to be somebody that's going to knock down open shots. Your boy Maxine Reynaud. I heard the interview. I heard him say some things. I want to see him go out there and hoop. I want to see.
Playing. He told me he's playing.
I want to see. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder right now. I want to see my man Hanson Yang out there. I don't think anybody can check him, to be honest with you. And we'll see how it works out for him. That's going to be a huge difference between the athleticism of the CBA and who's even going to be out there. So,
what I want to see? Hanson Yang on the same team as Ryan Nembhard or Yegor. Somebody that's going to say, get my man the ball, clear out.
Play?
Who's that?
You think Yegor is going to play?
I don't think so. But I'm just saying.
Real quick, do you think Yegor, I think he should shoot. He might be a drill shooter, though.
I don't know. I'm torn on that. I mean, I think his range is solidified.
Yeah.
So shooting, if he just has a bad shooting and a team workout, it may be whispers, but you don't want him to have like a bad shooting. Or I mean, it's risky. You could say he could have a off shooting day or a bad shooting day, but I think if he does, people are going to really question his touch. But if he has a good one, but he's the type of player that could shoot well at the combine setting because they're not contested shots, and this is something that he's been preparing for the last few weeks. But yeah, I want to see Hanson Yang. I want to see Neoklas Abdalis, a guy that I'm high on, who I thought looked really good at the Basketball Outboarders camp last year. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think there's a talent gap between Kaspar Jakachonis and Abdalis and Yegor Demon. I just think it's all about opportunity. So I would like to see if he can maximize the opportunity. But then the guy that I want to see, who I think has the opportunity to boost his draft stock the most, is Rocco Zakarski. He had some injuries in Australia. He looked very good when he played against his peers in a Albert Schweitzer tournament. I guess it was a year and a half ago or whatever. Struggled in the NBL, struggled with the physicality. The NBL is it's supposed to be a developmental league, but at the same time, they're all about winning. And if they don't think
they will put you in the corner for sure.
Yeah, if they don't think you contribute to winning, then they won't play you. I mean, we saw AJ Johnson, for example, guy that had, a little bit of buzz coming into the year, struggled, did not have good stats in the NBL, ends up being a first-round pick, and he showed some flashes to be excited about when he got traded to Washington. So Rocco Zakarski is a guy that, along with Hanson Yang and Abdalis, those are the three guys that I'm looking forward to seeing the most.
Yeah, I want to see Yang, man. I want to see what it looks like. I think he's gonna, when people see him in person, if he plays the way that I think he can play, I think he's gonna be a first-round pick.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that. I've heard some people say that they think it's a really good possibility. But he's also a guy that I wonder, like, if you're at college, are you throwing him a couple M's to come to your school? I haven't heard anything on the college front about him being linked to any schools. I know some other guys that are
he'd make so much
visits,
money in college basketball.
I agree.
If he spent 4 years in college, he'd probably make 12 easy.
Yep. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. James and I, we got a flight to catch. We're out.